The plasma cannon's heat signature painted the underground bunker walls in angry red. Commander Zara Velketh pressed her scaled back against the cold metal, listening to the death screams of her soldiers echoing through the tunnels above. The Nexari invasion fleet had been systematic, brutal, efficient, just like they always were. "Ma'am," whispered Lieutenant Crix, his 4 eyes darting between the scanner readout and the sealed blast door. "They've breached sectors 7 through 12. We're the last operational command post on the entire continent." Zara's throat sacs deflated with exhaustion. 3 months. That's how long the Galactic Defense Coalition had held out against the Nexari swarm. 3 months of watching entire star systems go dark, of receiving increasingly desperate transmission fragments from dying worlds. The Nexari didn't just conquer, they consumed. Every living thing, every trace of civilization, every hope. "Any word from the Terran delegates?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Crix's mandibles clicked nervously. "Still debating, ma'am. The Human Council says they need more. Time to consider our request for military aid." A bitter laugh escaped Zara's throat. "More time. While the Nexari glass entire worlds, the humans want to hold committee meetings." The blast door shuddered under impact. Once, twice, the emergency lighting flickered. "Contact frequency 77 Alpha, Zara ordered. "All remaining coalition forces. Authorization code Omega Red." Crix's eyes widened. Omega Red meant total retreat, the complete abandonment of the Kepler sector. "Ma'am, are you certain?" "Do it." As Crix transmitted the retreat order, Zara stared at the tactical display. 43 star systems, 2 billion souls, all written off because the galaxy's most powerful military force couldn't decide whether the threat was worth their involvement. The blast door buckled inward. "Incoming transmission, ma'am," Crix said. It's from Earth." Zara almost ignored it. What could the humans possibly say now? Another diplomatic delay? Another request for additional data while worlds burned? But something in Crix's voice made her pause. Put it through. The holographic projector sparked to life, revealing a woman in crisp military dress, dark hair pulled back severely, eyes like winter storms. No diplomatic ribbons, no ceremonial nonsense, just a soldier. "Commander Velketh," the human said, her voice carrying an accent Zara didn't recognize. "I am General Sarah Chen, Terran Special Operations Command. I'm told you have a Nexari problem." "General," Zara began, "with respect, if your government has decided—" "My government," Chen interrupted, "is composed of politicians who think war is a chess game played by committee. I am not my government." The blast door split down the middle. Metallic screeching filled the bunker as armored claws began prying at the gap. "I don't understand," Zara said. Chen's smile was sharp as a blade. 40 minutes ago, the first ships of Task Force Normandy entered the Kepler sector. We're operating under flexible interpretation of our mandate." "How many ships?" Crix asked. 12 dreadnoughts, 47 cruisers, 216 destroyers, and 1 very angry species that doesn't like bullies. The blast door exploded inward. Nexari shock troops poured through the breach, insectoid nightmares in powered armor, their weapon arms already glowing with energy buildup. Zara raised her sidearm, knowing it was useless. This was how it ended. Not with glory, but with the ceiling erupted. Debris rained down as armored figures dropped through the hole like avenging angels. Their weapons didn't hum or glow like coalition energy arms. They roared, primitive chemical reactions that sent hypersonic metal through Nexari carapaces with wet, tearing sounds. One of the humans, impossible to tell gender through the armor, landed directly on a Nexari trooper. The creature's exoskeleton crumpled. Under the impact, the human didn't pause, didn't hesitate. A combat knife appeared in their hand, sliding between armor plates with surgical precision. "Ma'am," the figure said, voice distorted by helmet speakers. "Staff Sergeant Martinez, 3rd Special Forces Group. We're here to collect you." Around the bunker, the firefight was already over. 12 Nexari shock troops, dead in under 30 seconds. Zara stared. How did you? The orbital defenses are down. Nothing should be able to reach the surface. Martinez helped her to her feet. Ma'am, with respect, you're thinking like prey. We're predators. Through her helmet's external speakers, Chen's voice crackled. Commander, you're about to learn something important about humans. We've been preparing for war since we first picked up rocks, and we've gotten very, very good at it. Zara looked around the bunker, at the dead Nexari, at the humans already setting up defensive positions with practiced efficiency, at Crix, whose mandibles hung open in shock. General, she said slowly, what exactly are you proposing? We're going to teach the Nexari what happens when you threaten. A human's friends, Chen replied. And Commander? Yes? This is going to get ugly. The Terran heavy cruiser Indomitable hung in space like a fortress made of angles and armor. Commander Zara had seen human ships before, usually diplomatic vessels with soft curves and civilian comforts. This was different. This was a machine, built for one purpose. Welcome aboard, Commander, General Chen said as they walked through corridors lined with weapon lockers and tactical displays. I apologize for the functional aesthetic. The Indomitable wasn't built for comfort tours. Zara's scaled skin detected the subtle vibration of massive engines, the hum of weapons charging and discharging in endless cycle tests. Everything here spoke of readiness, of violence held in check but ready to be unleashed. General, she said, I need to understand what we're dealing with. The Nexari have conquered 43 systems in 3 months. Their swarm tactics are effective against civilized opponents, Chen finished. Yes, we've studied the tactical reports, mass wave attacks, overwhelming numbers, psychological warfare through consumption of civilian populations. They stopped before a massive viewing port. Outside, Zara could see the rest of the human fleet. Sleek predators moving in perfect formation. The thing is, Chen continued, humans aren't civilized. Not really. We just pretend to be. A new voice joined them. Commander Velketh? Captain Marcus Reed, 5th Marine Expeditionary Unit. Zara turned to see a scarred human with cold eyes and arms covered in strange markings. Tattoos, she remembered they were called. He carried himself like a weapon barely contained. Captain Reed will be handling ground operations, Chen explained. He has extensive experience in asymmetric warfare. Reed's laugh was harsh. Ma'am, I spent 8 years fighting insurgents who hid among civilians and booby-trapped children's toys. The Nexari want to play terror games? We invented terror games. I don't understand, Zara said. The Coalition military academies teach that modern warfare is precise, surgical, minimize collateral damage and civilian casualties. Chen and Reed exchanged glances. Commander, Chen said carefully, show me the Coalition manual's section on total warfare. Total warfare? That's theoretical. No civilized species would... That's your problem, Reed interrupted. You're still thinking like civilized beings. The Nexari aren't civilized, they're a plague that wears armor. Chen activated a holographic display showing Nexari fleet movements. Look at their pattern. They don't just attack military targets, they go for population centers first. Terror weapons, biological consumption of non-combatants. Yes, Zara said. It's monstrous. It's effective, Reed corrected, but it only works against opponents who play by rules. We stopped playing by rules about 10,000 years ago. An aide approached Chen with a data pad. After reading it, the general's expression hardened. Speak of the devil, she said. Nexari fleet movement. They're massing for an attack on Kepler-7. 2 million civilians. Zara felt her throat sacs constrict. The evacuation ships can't reach them in time. They won't need to, Reed said. Captain, Chen said, you have authorization to implement Protocol 7. Reed's smile was predatory. Ma'am, yes, ma'am. As he strode away, Zara grabbed Chen's arm. What's Protocol 7? Chen looked at her for a long moment. Commander, you're about to see why humans were the only species to evolve from apex predators, and why that terrifies everyone else in the galaxy. The ship's intercommunication system crackled to life. Reed's voice echoed through the corridors. All units. This is Odin Actual. We are now weapons-free. Rules of engagement are as follows. If it's Nixari, it dies. If it's shooting at civilians, it dies faster. If it's running away, it dies tired. A pause, then quieter. Gentlemen, ladies, and those who identify otherwise, it's time to remind the galaxy why Earth's children don't play nice. Zara watched through the viewport as the human fleet spread into attack formation. These weren't the careful defensive postures she'd learned in the academy. This was something else entirely. This was a hunting pack. General, she said quietly, what have you done? We've unleashed the one thing the Nixari haven't encountered in their conquest, Chen replied. An enemy that enjoys war more than they do. The first human missiles streaked past the viewport, leaving trails of fire against the stars. And in the distance, the Nixari fleet was about to learn what humans meant by total war. The first Nixari swarm ships died without ever knowing they were under attack. Commander Zara watched the tactical display in horrified fascination as 12 massive Nixari vessels simply vanished. One moment they were advancing toward Kepler-7's orbital stations. The next they were expanding clouds of debris. Stealth missiles, explained Lieutenant Commander Jackson, the Indomitable's tactical officer. We've been tracking their fleet movements for 6 hours, pre-positioned munitions along their route. That's... Zara searched for words. The Nixari have the most advanced sensors in the galaxy. How did they not detect? Because, General Chen interrupted, human stealth technology wasn't designed to hide from civilized sensors. It was designed to hide from other humans. On the display, the remaining Nixari fleet, nearly 200 ships, began their combat deployment. Zara had seen this formation before, the dreaded swarm pattern. Overlapping fields of fire, overwhelming numerical advantage. It had broken every coalition defense for 3 months. They're moving to surround us, she said. Standard Nixari doctrine. They'll try to... Her words died as the human fleet did something no military academy had ever taught. Instead of forming defensive screens or organizing battle lines, they scattered. Individual ships breaking formation and accelerating directly into the Nixari swarm. General, Zara said urgently, your ships are abandoning formation. They'll be destroyed piecemeal. Chen's smile was cold. Commander, you're still thinking like prey. The first human destroyer, a ship barely 1/10, the size of a Nixari heavy cruiser, slammed directly into the alien formation. But instead of dying gloriously, it began to move through the enemy fleet like a shark through a school of fish. Its weapons didn't fire in careful aimed bursts. They fired constantly, continuously, in all directions. Flak patterns, Jackson explained. We're not trying to hit specific targets. We're filling space with so much metal that nothing can survive. Zara watched a Nixari battleship, a vessel that had personally glassed 3 coalition worlds, tear itself apart trying to avoid the cloud of hypersonic projectiles. Its evasive maneuvers sent it directly into the firing solution of another human ship. This is insane, she whispered. This is how apex predators hunt, Chen replied. Through the chaos, Captain Reed's voice crackled over the communication system. Odin 2 to all units. Marines are go for planetary insertion. Remember, kids, we're not here to occupy territory, we're here to send a message. What kind of message? Zara asked. Chen activated another display showing the surface of Kepler-7. Nixari ground forces had already begun their standard orbital bombardment, turning population centers into charnel houses. It was the same pattern they'd used on 43 worlds, but this time something was different. Drop pods were falling toward the planet like meteors, not the careful defensive deployments Zara knew from coalition doctrine. These were direct assault insertions, landing directly in the middle of Nixari formations. Marines don't take ground, Reed's voice explained over the communication channel. We take enemies. On the surface display, Zara could see human forces engaging Nixari shock troops in close combat. The aliens were larger, better armored, and numerically superior. Under all tactical theories, the humans should have been slaughtered. Instead, they were winning. How? She asked. Because, Chen said, Humans have been killing things bigger and meaner than themselves since before we invented fire. The Nexari think war is about conquest. For humans, war is about survival, and we're very good at surviving. A Nexari communication burst filled the bridge speakers, their standard surrender demand. But instead of the usual list of worlds to be evacuated and populations to be processed, it was something else entirely. Fear. The message was fragmented, panic-tinged. Reports of human soldiers who fought like demons, of weapons that killed through armor, of enemies who didn't retreat, didn't surrender, and didn't stop. They're requesting reinforcements, Jackson translated. The entire Nexari Fifth Fleet is asking for help. Chen nodded. Send a response. Open channel. All frequencies. General, Zara said urgently. You can't mean to. Attention Nexari forces. Chen spoke directly into the communication array. This is General Sarah Chen, Terran Defense Forces. You have killed our friends. You have threatened our allies. You have made the mistake of believing that mercy is weakness. A pause. Around the bridge, human officers watched their general with predatory attention. We are revoking your license to exist. Any Nexari vessel that surrenders immediately will be allowed to leave this system and never return. Any Nexari vessel that does not surrender will be destroyed. You have 60 seconds to decide. The channel closed. General, Zara said, there are still over 100 Nexari ships out there, even with your advantages. Commander, Chen said, softly, you're about to learn the most important lesson in human military doctrine, which is, Chen's smile was sharp as broken glass. Never threaten something a human cares about, because humans don't just fight to win. On the tactical display, the countdown timer reached 0. Not a single Nexari ship had surrendered. Very well, Chen said. Captain Reed, you are authorized for Pattern Omega. Reed's voice came back immediately. Ma'am, yes ma'am. All units, weapons free. Show them what happens when you make humans angry. And across the Kepler system, the galaxy learned why Earth was the only world that had never been successfully invaded. The Nexari were about to discover what happens when prey becomes predator. The last Nexari command ship burned against the stars like a dying ember. Commander Zara stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching debris fields that had once been the galaxy's most feared invasion fleet drift past the viewports. 12 hours. That's how long it had taken for Task Force Normandy to completely annihilate a force that had conquered 43 star systems. Casualty report, General Chen requested. 7 wounded. No KIA, Lieutenant Commander Jackson replied. Nexari losses total 100%. Zara's throat sacs inflated with disbelief. Impossible. No military force achieves 0 casualties against an equal opponent, Chen finished. The Nexari weren't equal opponents, Commander. They were bullies who'd never met anyone willing to hit back harder. Captain Reed's voice crackled. Over the communication system. Ground operations complete. No Nexari survivors planetside. Civilian casualties minimal. Looks like the bugs were so busy trying to figure out what hit them, they forgot to keep murdering people. Through the viewport, Zara could see the human fleet reforming. Not the scattered chaos of battle, but precise formations that spoke of absolute discipline. These weren't random warships thrown together. This was a military machine that had been designed, tested, and perfected over generations. General, she said slowly, I need to understand something. Your government said they were still considering our request for aid, but this fleet, this level of preparation, you've been planning this for months, haven't you? Chen nodded. Our government was considering, our military was preparing. There's a difference. But the authorization codes, the diplomatic clearances, were filed under training exercise. 47 Delta, Reed interrupted as he entered the bridge, his armor still stained with Nexari ichor. Amazing how much training we needed in this particular sector of space. Zara looked between the two humans. You went to war without your government's explicit permission? We went to war, Chen corrected, Because our government's permission was taking too long and people were dying. An aide approached with a data pad. Chen read it quickly, then looked up with satisfaction. Interesting news, Commander. We're receiving communications from Nexari command fleets throughout the galaxy. It seems word of today's events has spread. What kind of communications? Chen activated the holographic display. Nexari text scrolled past in rapid succession, accompanied by translations. Withdrawal orders, she said. Every Nexari fleet within 50 light-years is pulling back to their home territories. The invasion of the Kepler sector has been indefinitely postponed. Zara felt her legs give out. She sank into the nearest chair, mind reeling. They're retreating? All of them? Seems our friends learned an important lesson about human psychology, Reed said, removing his helmet to reveal a scarred face with cold, satisfied eyes. We don't just defeat enemies. We make examples. I don't understand, Zara said. 12 hours ago, the Nexari controlled half the galaxy. Now they're running from a single human task force? Chen walked to the viewport, looking out at the debris field. Commander, how many worlds did the Nexari conquer in their expansion? 43. Confirmed. Perhaps 60 total. And in all those conquests, did they ever encounter serious resistance? Zara thought back to the reports, the desperate final transmissions, the overwhelming speed of each defeat. No. Most worlds fell within days. The longest resistance lasted 2 weeks. That's because every species they encountered fought defensively, tried to protect their worlds, their populations, their infrastructure. Chen turned back to face her. Humans don't fight defensively, Commander. We fight to win. But what's the difference? Reed laughed harshly. The difference is that when someone threatens something we care about, we don't try to save it. We eliminate the threat, permanently. A new communication alert chimed. Jackson checked his display and looked up with surprise. General, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth, from the President himself. Chen raised an eyebrow. Put it through. The holographic projector displayed an older human male in formal attire, looking distinctly uncomfortable. General, Chen, the President said, I've been informed of your activities in the Kepler sector. Mr. President, Chen replied formally, the Galactic Council is asking some difficult questions about human military capabilities. They want to know why we didn't inform them that we possessed this level of force projection. Chen's expression didn't change. Sir, with respect, they never asked. A long pause. Then the President sighed. The Council is also asking whether this represents official Earth policy going forward. That, Chen said carefully, depends on whether anyone else decides to massacre human allies. Another pause. When the President spoke again, his tone was different, less political, more human. General, the preliminary reports I'm seeing, 12 hours to eliminate a force that conquered nearly 50 star systems. 11 hours and 37 minutes, sir. We spent 23 minutes making sure there were no survivors. Jesus. The President ran a hand through his hair. The Council representatives are terrified, Sarah. They want guarantees that Earth won't turn this fleet on other species. Sir, Chen said, tell the Council that Earth has no interest in conquest. We never have. But also tell them that Earth takes a dim view of genocide, and we take an extremely dim view of anyone who threatens our friends. And if they ask about our military capabilities, Chen's smile was sharp as a blade. Tell them that what they saw today was a training exercise. And Mr. President? Yes? Tell them that if they want to see what humans do when we're really trying, they should pray they never find out. The transmission ended. Commander Zara looked around the bridge at the human officers. They were returning to normal duties, filing reports, conducting maintenance checks. As if completely annihilating a galactic threat was just another day at the office. General, she said quietly, what happens now? Chen looked out at the stars. Now? Now the galaxy learns that humans make excellent friends and terrible enemies. The Nexari will retreat to their home territories and think very carefully about their expansion plans. And species like yours will sleep better, knowing that sometimes the monsters are afraid of something too. And Task Force Normandy? We'll return to Earth to file our reports and receive our official reprimand for unauthorized military action. Chen's smile was predatory. Right after we make a few more training stops at systems that have been asking for help. As the human fleet began its departure from Kepler 7, Zara watched the retreating ships and understood something fundamental had changed in the galaxy. For 3 months, civilized species had cowered before an unstoppable threat. Now that threat was running from 12 human ships and a few thousand soldiers who treated war like a profession, the balance of power hadn't shifted. It had been utterly rewritten. Epilogue. New rules. 6 months later, Ambassador Zara Velketh stood in the council chambers of New Geneva, Earth's diplomatic center. The room was packed with representatives from across the galaxy, all waiting for the same thing. The formal announcement of the Human Coalition Mutual Defense Treaty. The signing represents a new era, she said into the recording device, preparing her report for the Coalition archives. 6 months ago, Earth was considered a minor power, technologically advanced but militarily irrelevant. Today, she gestured toward the treaty documents, thick with signatures from species that had never agreed on anything before. Today, Earth is the most requested military ally in galactic history. Through the chamber's vast windows, she could see Earth's orbital defenses. What had once been simple communication satellites and research stations were now revealed as weapon platforms, defense grids, and fleet bases, all hiding in plain sight. The humans, she continued, have been preparing for war since before they achieved spaceflight, not preparing to start wars but to finish them. President Harrison approached the podium, flanked by General Chen and several other military officers. The room fell silent. Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings of all species, he began. 6 months ago, the galaxy learned something important about humanity. We do not seek conflict. We do not desire conquest. But we will not tolerate the strong preying upon the weak. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembled delegates. The Mutual Defense Treaty represents our commitment to that principle. Any signatory species that comes under attack will have the full support of the Terran Defense Forces. Ambassador Carrix of the Altair Republic raised a tentacle. Mr. President, there are concerns about human military doctrine. The Nexari campaign was unusually decisive. President Harrison smiled. Ambassador, I understand the concern. When humans commit to military action, we commit completely. But I want to be clear about something. He gestured toward General Chen, who stepped forward. The force that ended the Nexari expansion, Chen said, represented approximately 2% of Earth's total military capability. We have been preparing for war for a very long time. Not because we wanted it, but because the universe is a dangerous place. Shocked whispers filled the chamber. 2%? Ambassador Carrix asked. Task Force Normandy, Chen confirmed, was a rapid response unit, what you would call a police action. Zara felt her throat sacs constrict. If what the humans had shown was merely a police action, President Harrison returned to the podium. The choice before the galaxy is simple. We can work together to ensure that species like the Nexari never again threaten peaceful worlds, or we can continue to let bullies run wild until someone else has to clean up the mess. And if species choose not to sign the treaty? Asked the Regellian delegate. Then they choose to face threats alone. Harrison replied simply, we won't force protection on anyone, but we also won't sit idle while our friends are slaughtered. As the formal signing began, Zara made her way to the observation deck where Captain Reed stood watching the ceremony. Captain, she said, may I ask you something? Shoot, Commander. The Nexari. Were they really that dangerous? Or did you make it look easy because... Reed's laugh was still harsh, but there was warmth in it now. Commander, the Nexari were dangerous as hell. They could have conquered the entire galaxy if they'd been left alone. Then how? Because, Reed said, watching Earth's sun set through the chamber windows, humans have been preparing for the Nexari since before we knew they existed. We've been preparing for anything that might threaten what we care about. And, what do you care about, Captain? Reed was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. Not the predatory grin she'd seen in battle, but something gentler. Friends, Commander. Humans care about our friends. And as of today, the galaxy has a lot more of those. As the treaty signing concluded and representatives began planning the new galactic defense grid, Zara understood that something fundamental had indeed changed. For millennia, the strong had preyed upon the weak because no one had been willing or able to stop them. Now someone was. The galaxy's newest. Apex predators didn't hunt for territory or resources. They hunted for justice, and they were very, very good at it.